Ladies and gentlemen, the final major chess event of 2023 is over. The World Blitz Championship concluded today. The Open and the Women's. We have champions. And in this video, I'm going to take you through an incredible day of games filled with action, filled with drama as always, and a friendly reminder that if you never took advantage of the holiday sale of my courses, you still got a couple of days left because there's a New Year's resolution you can make to yourself on improving your chess. All courses are 40% off. That's all I have to say. I am the sponsor of today's video. Folks, it's round number 13. It is the second day of action at the World Blitz. We have to play a bunch more games, and we're going to start with Magnus Carlsen versus Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. Now, you might remember yesterday, Dubov and Nepo, double forfeit. That was a major story, a double forfeit in the World Blitz Championship for putting the game of chess into disrepute, as they were called. Well, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, a World Blitz champion in his own right from several years ago. This is always a very interesting matchup. We're going to get day two underway. Magnus opening up with his favorite opening. This is the Sveshnikov Sicilian. We haven't seen Magnus get a Sveshnikov Sicilian on the board in a long time because it's his true and tried weapon. Most people, when they see Magnus play this, they play bishop to b5. That's called the Rossalimo. They try to take Magnus out of a place of comfort. But instead of that, Maxime plays directly into an open Spanish. Knight d5, takes. This line has been played many times. The World Championship match between Fabiano Caruana and Magnus Carlsen in 2018 that had all of about 250 spectators because nobody watched chess in 2018. Of course, I am joking. But none of you probably followed that match. A good amount of you. Some of you watched chess 5 years ago. Some of you weren't even born 5 years ago. Some of you have the mental maturity of somebody who wasn't born 5 years ago. Okay, now that we've gotten the early video insults out of the way, let's proceed with this game. In this type of Sveshnikov setup, generally Magnus attacks with his E and F pawns, and he kind of allows the queen side to just stand still. Now, this approach by MVL is clearly something that he has prepared because nobody just bulldozes into a position like this, grabbing a pawn and not developing their pieces. Magnus plays bishop d7 and queen c8, but MVL at the end of the day does just have an extra pawn. Now he plays rook a3. Magnus gets rid of the knight so it doesn't control the c7 square anymore and tries to trade off some of Maxime's pieces. Maxime plays takes, finally castles, and now safeguards his queenside with c4 and basically says, look, Magnus, you're Magnus, but I'm MVL, and I have 3 initials in my name, so it's cool. Also, I'm up a pawn. King f1. Magnus plays e4, creating counterplay. Maxime says, what about a queen trade? How are you going to beat me when we trade queens? And Magnus plays knight d3. Oh. He sacrificed the rook. This man just sacrificed the full rook in an endgame to just... Get this? This man, Maxime, gives up a rook for a knight, down 40 seconds on the clock, and he basically says, Magnus, my bishop is better than any of these rooks. You can't use your pawns. Your rook can't get to the e-file unless it does this little 3-point turn in a parking lot, and then I'm just going to push the rest of my pawns. So what does Magnus do? Exactly that. He puts his rook on the e-file. In the meantime, Maxime got his pawn back, so he has a bishop and 2 pawns, and Maxime courageously goes for a rook versus bishop endgame because he's correct. This is winning. This is an endgame where there is nothing that Magnus can do. f4, e4. He tries to create counterplay with his rook. It's not good enough. Here comes a6. The last line of defense has been stripped. Here come the pawns. Maxime's pawns are faster. Oh my goodness. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave has defeated the best endgame player of all time by sacrificing a rook for a knight for a beautiful technical conversion. Oh, this is crazy. This is the drama that we did the first game of the day. They started a little bit early on day 2. Chess tournaments always do that. They always start the last day of the event a little bit early. Because I guess people have to like travel home, or the organizers don't want to stay late, or maybe the hotel fees are expensive. This is just game over because by the time the black king makes it here, I'll just move my bishop, but by then I'll also queen. So I'm too fast. What an endgame. What a technical conversion. A beautiful, sophisticated rook sacrifice from one of the best blitz players in the world, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. Magnus lost his first loss. He played 26 games of chess. Now, at this point, something funny happened. All right, I am as guilty as the next person. I am perhaps the most guilty of farming Magnus for content. Farming. Milking, as the youngins in the comment section say. Milking the cow for content. But they followed Magnus to a lake. Magnus went for a walk by the lake after his loss. Now, I don't think this is Chess24's video. I think somebody must have recorded. Maybe it was Chess-Based India, because Chess-Based India is on site. They are doing an excellent job covering the event. They have a ton of live boards. I would never follow Magnus to a lake after a loss. Like, I can't, I don't have the social anxiety for that. Like, I can't, they're just filming him like an animal walking in a zoo. But this is pretty cool. On a serious note, I wonder what he's listening to. Also, how close is he to the lake? Like, could somebody just tip him in with like a finger? Hilarious. Anyway, they record Magnus, you know, gathering himself. And there was comments here that were like, he's about to go cook. This is crazy. No, it's cool. It's cool to have footage like this. I could never, though. Somebody else has to do it. I'll put him up in YouTube videos, and you guys will watch videos of Magnus playing, but Magnus lost. Crazy. Will he be able to bounce back, or will guys like Artemyev, guys like Dubov, guys like Nepo, are they going to make a run? Well, they are winning their games here and there. It's a big race of folks at the top. Magnus comes back. He plays against Alexei Sarana. He plays a sideline of the Sicilian. Plays bishop to e2. All right? Then later he plays kind of a more open Sicilian. Now we're sort of in a Najdorf. Bishop b7, bishop f3. Magnus attacks the queen side. Gets his rook into the game. Targets the bishop on b7. Sarana defends the bishop on b7. Magnus Carlsen, inspired by the actions of the Frenchman with 3 names, sacrifices the rook, bulldozes the center of the board with e5. And now, before he takes the knight, Zwischenzug gives a check, forces a defensive move, and then, knowing that he's about to lose his knight, not just the Zwischenzug, in this position, Magnus Carlsen plays a desperado sacrifice. Knight takes e6. His logic was, I'm going to lose my knight anyway, so I should sacrifice it to open up my opponent's position, and then I'm going to get the knight back. And before I do that, I'm going to throw in a check for good measure, because if g6, I'll take, and I'll threaten the rook, and I can't get taken because of the pin. Oh my god, that walk on the lake just inspired a madman. Sarana down to 40 seconds. Magnus taking all the things Sarana has ever worked for. The king is trying to desperately run to safety. Actually, the advantage almost slips away, according to the computer. But black is always under pressure in this position. Sarana does a ridiculous job, by the way, of fighting back with 10 seconds on the clock, because every player here is good. Every player here is a monster. But then Magnus, look at this. Bishop to g5 check. Discovered attack on the rook. Gets the rook back, and black's king just never gets comfortable. With 5 seconds on the clock, you are destined to lose this game. And he does. Bishop to c6. Apparently, he crawled all the way back. He should have been a little bit more patient. Maybe queen b6 covering the a7 square. Even taking on b2 by the computer was okay. Magnus comes back from the lake rejuvenated. All right? He wins that game. Now he's playing against Arjun Erigaisi. e4, c5. Knight f3, e6. Magnus playing a different way against the Sicilian now. Now he's playing like a King's Indian attack. Bishop g2, bishop e7, castles queen c7, a4, taking a little bit of space away on the queen side. Erigaisi playing also just a very patient game, maneuvering the knight back to h7. Magnus knight f1, h4. This is the typical attacking pattern in the King's Indian attack. You wrap around the knight like this. Black needs to create queenside counterplay or he's going to get demolished. All right, here comes black with queenside counterplay. Knight b4 and d4. Magnus comes back to attack the knight. Rook d8. b3. Bishop to b7. Magnus takes. He takes to alleviate some of the pressure. And so the pawns can't actually do any damage. Now he needs to defend his pawn. And then he's going to potentially continue the attack or put the knight on c4, put the knight on e4, trade the bishops. What are we going to get? Okay, there we go. We have a trade. The knight is going to the queen side. There it is. We defend the pawn. Arjun Erigaisi creating counterplay with the only pawn that he has. Magnus zips around, continues to fight for the light squares with queen f3. King g8. Arjun has no problems. It's a very solid position, but it's still very much a maneuvering game. Okay, we have the entirety of the A file, and Erigaisi's got 40 seconds. There goes G4. We're creating pressure on all the sides of the board. F6. But now knight E4, adding more pressure. Erigaisi's time ticking below 30 seconds. Magnus trades away the knight. Very good decision. Why? Close position. 2 pawns on the dark squares. By playing like this, Black is going to really struggle to get his pieces into the game. Now he's going for an endgame. Erigaisi down to less than 20 seconds. He loses a pawn. His bishop is still garbage. And now we sack the queen because we get it right back. And we have a rook and knight endgame versus rook and bishop with an extra pawn with extra 34 seconds on the clock. And the added bonus of being named Magnus Carlsen. We are now up 2 pawns in an endgame. D4. We're only up 1 now, but we're coming in. Now, what's funny is that, you know, the evaluation here is like throughout this point was like +1.5, +2. The computer was screaming for certain ways of converting, but Magnus does it his own way. He does it like this: rook b6, rook c6. Oops. Oops. Right? Apparently, it was better to go rook b7. Blitz is just about playing on instinct and playing on feel. And apparently, this is +12. This is +37. +36. It says +35, but it's +35 and a half, and I'm rounding up. Instead of all of that, Magnus finds a way. Look, G6 first is apparently winning. And then you have to play rook G1 here. But instead of that, rook F8, a very stressful game. But Magnus, oh my goodness, what is going on? It's equal again. It's equal. What? Knight D4. And then Magnus finds a way to win it by still, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh, that was crazy. There was like M in the evaluation so many times. It was over. It was completely over. You just, I mean, you had to seal the door. I guess Magnus didn't see a way after rook c8, but there's G7, rook f8. Or something. I mean, and it's just wild. 40 seconds versus 10. He was trying to bury Erigaisi. Credit to Erigaisi, who was getting his way out of the endgame so many times. I mean, we could analyze all of this. We could analyze all the drawing mechanisms. It's knight and 3 versus rook. Like, it's very hard to draw this with 5 seconds on the clock. But the computer seems to think it's drawable, which is kind of nuts. But Magnus wins again. Now, popping into the women's section for a second, all right? We have Kostyuk and we have Gunina. Yesterday, we had Valentina Gunina running away with the event, already a massive lead. Kostyuk caught up. She got very close. And in the 15th round of the event, because they have 17 rounds, Gunina lost. She lost the game. I think they have 17 rounds. I never know, because they don't do the same. The men have 21. It's technically not even the men. It's like the open section. But I'm not even sure there is a woman playing in the open. It's really weird. I got to double check this. But some of you ask in the comments section about this. It's a subject for a very long video that I probably will do at some point. But, you know. Anyway. For now, let's focus on what we have and things that we... Not on things we can't really control or have all the answers to. Point is, there are 17 rounds for some reason. Yesterday, Gunina was crushing, but in the 15th round, Gunina lost. And because Gunina lost, it allowed Kostyuk to catch up. She was very close. She was half a point away, and it came down to the final round. Literally. So if Kostyuk wins and Gunina doesn't, Kostyuk might win the World Blitz, or we go to a tiebreak. So we have a Caro-Kann, we have a Tartakower. Very popular opening nowadays, especially this line with knight a6 and black rerouting the knight like this. Knight e2, the knight goes to c7. Black plays like this, developing the knight via c7, potentially to attack the queen side, potentially to get back into the center. f3, bishop h5. Black plays bishop g6 and puts the rook on e8. It's a very balanced game. Bishop f5, bishop e6. She really wants to trade the bishop. White says no. Now, black puts a bunch of pawns on on the 6th rank, just kind of like this. Playing like this, tucking the elbows, looking for a fight. F5. Bishop goes back. But how are you gonna actually win this game? It's a very standard Tartakower, which is really solid, but okay, c4. And now Kostyuk decides she's had enough. And in this position, plays h5. And starts attacking her opponent with the pawn of her own king. Rook e7. Slides the queen to f4, taking a little bit more space away from her opponent. The d5 square looks really good. We trade. We put the bishop on e6. We put the knight on d5. Whose knight is better? Both knights have outposts in their opponent's position. Rook d7, rook e7. We're repositioning. We're preparing. Bishop d7. White advancing on the queen side. We trade the queens. We have rook e1 check, forcing out the king. Look at the time, though. Look at the time. The time is definitely on Kostyuk's side with black. Knight e7. White is still trying to break through on the queen side. Very desperate situation. Rook a2. 8 seconds remaining. 16 for black. Bishop d1, knight c3. White is completely solid. She takes on b5. Rook a2, and the pawn is a runaway, but black is going to get back in time. The bishop is either going to get back or the knight is going to get back. Knight d3, and black's pawn makes it. Black's pawn is the one that crosses the center line. Black is now a piece up, and she's got to convert this game without losing on time. She will. Alexandra Kostyuk, a very tense endgame, middle game and endgame in the Caro-Kann. She wins. She wins her game, which means it all comes down to Gunyina. If Gunyina wins this game, she is the world champion of Blitz. If she loses, Kostyuk is the world champion of Blitz. If she draws, I think they play a tiebreak. Maybe they do play a tiebreak. Takes, king d2, bishop c4, h4, h5. This is a Grunfeld. It's a very, very balanced position. Knight a5. Bishop slides back. Bishop goes to e6. Knight is trying to come to c4. White advances, taking space away. Very engine-like. All right? Very, very, like, Alpha Zero-like idea. Knight g5. Bishop c4. Knight hits the bishop. The bishop goes back to the corner. White is making steady progress here with the king. The king is brave. And now the rooks are going to come over here to put pressure on the queen side. Black tries to fight back. But white is advancing. White is advancing into the black position. Rook c1. Look at this. Excellent control. This bishop is kind of a non-factor, which is why we love putting that bishop in the corner like that. g4. That bishop is going to perish in the corner. d5 taking all the space away. Now black has to kind of commit pawns back. But white is just ruthless. Gunyina walks all of her opponents down like the Terminator. Look at this. Rook c2. Rook f1 taking the f-file. Black has absolutely no moves remaining. Rook g5 is basically mate. You go here and this is going to be mate in a couple of moves. The bishop comes to sacrifice itself for the defense. There is nothing to be done. Look at this absolutely ruthless domination of the black position. Every piece defended. Not the pawn on h6, but it's untouchable because then this leads to a mate on h2. Bishop f6 takes. Valentina Gunyina wins the last game like the Terminator, walking down her opponent. Excellent game. And she wins. Alexandra Kostyuk, the runner-up by half a point in the women's. I will show you the final standings in a moment. My friends, there was crazy games going on all over. Magnus goes on a winning streak. Meanwhile, Dubov and Artemiev are also cooking it up in the kitchen. Shakhriyar Mamedyarov versus Artemiev. This is a massive game. Now, what do we know about Mamedyarov? My man always is ready to throw down. G4 playing in a gambit style. Coming straight at Artemiev. Artemiev says, you know what? If you're going to attack me on this side, well, I guess I'm going to have to go the other way. I'm going to castle queenside. Artemiev, one of the most technical players in the game. One of the most methodical, strategic guys in the game. He's very, very, very good. Very good defender, very patient player. King b1, king b8. Takes. Rook e1, bishop to b4. Now, how is Mamedyarov going to create some chaos? Mamedyarov always looking for a battle somehow. Knight e4. All right, dc. Knight takes. Artemiev is a simple man. You give him knight for bishop, he's going to take it. He's also got the connected pawns. But he's down 30 seconds. Queen f6. He grabs the knight. He knows this is not the best move, but he's a technical player. And he goes to an endgame with white having damaged pawns. Because even though he has 8 seconds on the clock, that is all he needs to work with. Rook e8, Mamedyarov pinning, h4, but it's all he needs to work with. Now watch as he just, the same way as Gunyina did it in a tactical way, watch as Artemiev walks down his opponent, gives up the bishop for the knight. What? Why would he do that? For simplicity. The bishop is better than the knight in the long run, but he grabs a pawn. He wins a pawn. Yes, it gives white the opportunity to maybe advance. which is exactly what Mamedyarov is going to do. And now the computer doesn't even like black's position as much as it did, but it's simplicity. It's just it's a matter of simplicity. And it allows Artemiev to play with less than 10 seconds on the clock. My friends, how long has Artemiev had 10 seconds? Since like literally, since the 22nd move of the game, Artemiev has had 6 seconds on the clock, and he completely outmaneuvers a 2750 rated opponent. That's his blitz rating. King b3, rook d2. Artemiev is just straight up outplaying the guy with 10 seconds remaining. He gets 2 seconds bonus every time he makes a move. Patience, patience, knight c4. And now, boom! Rook e4 played with 5 seconds on the clock. Sacrifices to get a check, pick up this, and it's over. e7. I was going to say e7, knight d6, or rook h8, or king d7. What a game from Artemiev. Clutch. Ice water in his veins. After 16 rounds of action, Artemiev leads the event. He leads the event. He's half a point ahead of Magnus. Dubov, where's my man Dubov? Dubov is half a point ahead of Magnus as well. Half a point, he's very close to Magnus. He's half a point behind. But the man who walked by the lake, Magnus Carlsen, playing against Serbian Grandmaster Alexander Indic, plays a Nimso. Plays a solid Nimso. You know, typical Magnus, all right? Solid opening. Let's see. Tries to open up the position, plays c4. Look at Indic. f4, very nice position. But these bishops looking a little bit sus, as the kids say. Rook b8. Wait, what? Isn't that a fork? Yeah, that is a fork. What? Well, the idea, I guess, is this. If you take, I take with check, and then I get into your position. All of this is weak, and these pieces suck. But it just straight up looks like Magnus hung a fork. Nope. Rook a2. Yo, Magnus is still trying to hang the fork. Okay. He still hung it, but now at least queen e3 is a... Okay. Now, this is a real fork. So he stops it. But this move is an indication that the position's about to open. And Magnus gets his knight in, just grabs a pawn on the edge of the board, and drives the knight in. In a matter of like 5 moves, they went from 139, 119 to white having 8 seconds on the clock. 5 moves, 4 moves. This is move 17. This is move 21. Magnus freezes you in his tracks. Knight takes, queen e6, queen f5, take the light squares, stop g4, paralyze your opponent's pieces, boom, 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 boom. Discovered attack on the rook, hits the queen, the game is over. You take, I take, clean up, rook b2, queen d2, ladder mate is coming. Mate on all of these squares might be possible if you give it him up. Magnus wins again. Oh my. Oh my. Magnus is a man on a mission. He just won again. That was all after losing the first game of the day. Now, Daniil Dubov, Fabiano Caruana, e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6. All right, we have a solid game to start. Rook e1, a4. Fabiano, if he wins this game, is in the running for first. If Dubov wins this game, he is in the running for first. It's a big maneuvering battle. d4, knight takes. But, whoa! Sacrificing a bishop is Fabi. Trying to get the knight back. The bishop drops all the way back. He's just a pawn up. He's just a pawn up. Dubov, and now he's grabbing a second pawn. Dubov invited him in. Whoa! He grabs a pawn, and then he sacks the knight because queen e6, rook e4. So Dubov sacrifices the rook. Desperate times, desperate measures. He's just trying to attack. This, as you can tell from Stockfish, it is not impressed. Fabiano Caruana is about to join the top 3. Knight takes f8. Courageous move. If black gets 2 moves in a row, it's mate. But it's chess. You don't get 2 moves in a row. Queen h3, I have this incredible knight check. Deflecting your knight. You have to spend time, and in that time, I grab a very important pawn, which prevents you from making much forward progress. You can play knight h4, but then I will check you. And that is exactly what happens. But how do I stop this and this? Oh my God, how do I stop that? There's only one way. If the evaluation is plus 4.5, but there's only one move to find it and you have 12 seconds remaining, is it really plus 4.5? Because Fabiano doesn't find it. The best move is rook to d8. Because what? After you sacrifice, that's mate. Nope, the knight is in the way. What? The idea is to stop the bishop blocking the king. So you can go check, king h7, queen e4 with check. If the king goes back, you have check here and the same pattern, and then you go mate. And if queen e4 and let's say black plays g6, queen b7, the bishop stops the escape, and rook e8 is going to be mate. Oh! But instead of that, Fabiano sacks the queen and gets the knight. And now it's a draw. But it's a very difficult draw because Dubov's queen and bishop are very, very, very angry. Queen c2, king f1, and all of a sudden, white's defenses crumble. Fabiano panics. Rook b5, oh my goodness, he's giving checks, and here Fabiano has to move his f-pawn so that queen d1, he has king f2. But he loses. That's the final move of the game, king to g8. And I'm willing to bet Fabiano lost on time. He didn't have a check. He was struggling to find a move. Maybe he resigned and didn't see the f-pawn can move, but I'm pretty sure Fabiano lost on time. Because queen d1 is coming and you can't move any of these pieces. But f3. And it's very unpleasant. It's a very unpleasant position, but it's not completely lost. And Daniil Dubov catches the leaders. He catches the leaders. So it all comes down to the performance of a certain Magnus Carlsen. As always, if Magnus is clutch, he's going to take the lead and hang on to it. He's playing Yu Yang. I mean, he plays some crazy sideline. I've never seen this in my h3. Never, ever, ever seen this in my life. I gotta look this up after. c4, playing into a sideline against Yu Yang. Yu Yang trying to fight back against the center. Magnus takes the center. Knight e5, very nice idea. He's a pawn up, by the way. Knight, ooh. Says Yu Yang, you want the pawn so bad, you gotta give up the bishop. Yep, give up the bishop. Castles. d5, holding on to the center. Knight takes d5. Magnus says, bishops versus knights. Who's gonna win? Bishop f4. Let's trade the queens. Let's trade the queens. Let's trade everything. Now I have a pawn 2 squares away from queening indefinitely. It's gonna be a headache for you. Rook d1, rook d8, rook d4, a4. Is he gonna sack the rook? He's not gonna sack the rook. He's not gonna sack the rook. Not yet. First, he needs to pry away the defenses from the black position. And Yu Yang blunders. He thinks all of this is solid. But all Magnus needed was to open up that side of the board because after takes, he has c7 and the game is over. The game is over because normally you go here and you win. But rook d1, back rank mate, rook d8 is a threat. So instead of that, we have rook f8, bishop b7. You can't stop the promotion. If you go back, I take. And then I get in. So Yu Yang tries to use his pawns. c8 queen. He's Magnus freaking Carlsen. You think he's scared of a couple of pawns? Rook a5, the bishop cuts everything. Rook c5, he's just too fast. His king is way too fast. All those pawns are like potato chips. b3, he grabs one, and Yu Yang resigns because he's not going to be able to push the other pawns through. What a game from Magnus. Here we go, we're going to keep it moving. By the way, that's all in a row. Let's watch with black. e4, e5 against young Krzysztof Duda, one of the best players in the world. Bishop e7, he plays the Dubov. That's the Dubov line, right? Excuse me, the Dubov line. Sorry, I don't watch a lot of games with black. That's, correction. The Dubov line is against the Italian. This is just the mainline Spanish. My mouth moved faster than my brain. But in the Italian, with the bishop on c4, Dubov likes to play bishop e7. Magnus has worked with Dubov in the past, hence that's where my brain went. That was a very stupid thing to say, and I apologize. Consider this my YouTuber apology. Mainline Spanish, damn it! Anti-martial. Magnus loves to play d5. Right, he loves to play d5, so how's he gonna get this one done? b4. Okay, Duda trying to limit him, but now we see Magnus pointing his bishop at his opponent's king side. h6, let's trade the bishops. All right, bishop is still, okay, you want to trade, that's pretty lame, Jan, but we can do that now. Okay, I'm still going to create an attack. Let's trade the queens. Funny stuff here, by the way. You could go here, But instead of that, he's trying to do this. But he plays king f1, and now instead of taking the knight, we desperado the knight to damage our opponent's structure. So we both have damaged pawns, but I'm going for this. And I'm going for the d file. So what are we going to do? King f7. Rook trade. It's a rook and knight endgame, and I'm... I want the a pawn. There it is. b3, I'm going to get it. There it is. I'm going to get it. The position collapses. Magnus Carlsen has a 2-minute time advantage. He has 1:54 to 5 seconds. How does this man make this so easy? The outside pass pawn is going to be a menace. The computer thinks this position is defendable. The computer is not young Krzysztof Duda. Weak pawns, 2 connected passers. The king is going to walk over. Stockfish can defend this position, but JKD ain't Stockfish. He's a human being, right? With a nervous... What just happened? How did that... Well, as it so happens, JKD is Stockfish. He's defending this position against Magnus. It's a complete draw now. It's a complete draw. There's nothing to play for. Total draw. King G... All right, Magnus is going to do his best, but he's not... No. He's gonna draw this game. Yeah, that was crazy. Whoa! It's blitz! It's blitz! And just like in the Erigaisi game, sometimes the plot twists are kept until the very end, and Magnus wins a tense, unpredictable, but 5th game in a row. And this is the final game of today's recap. It is Magnus versus Report. It is a French defense. Magnus trying to slow down the explosive nature of his opponent. Report always looking for complications and an interesting battle. Magnus says, I don't want any of that. Let's play an exchange French. Let's let Report try to create a fight in a position where there might not be a fight warranted. Let's get the knight for the bishop, just like I did against Yu Yangyi. Let's keep it slow. Keep it nice and chill. Nice and easy. Report goes back because he's like, I gotta guard my pawn. Wait, my pawn is hanging. So he goes back. Queen d7. Magnus maneuvers. Magnus wins the pawn anyway. Magnus wins the pawn anyway. Rook e1. And then just says, look, man, I'm just pawn up. I'm just up a pawn. I got 6 pawns, you got 5. That's it. You gonna defend this position? Queen e6. Good luck. Queen and rook endgame. Here we go. g3, king g2, f3, and a lot of tactics are flying all over the board, but queen c2 is just game over. Queen d4, trade the queens. Winning pawn endgame, there it is. 2 pawns up. 2 pawns up. We pushing P. Actually, it's pushing D. Pause. King goes out, queen b7, d7, it's over. There is no perpetual check. This is promotion. It takes 57 moves. Magnus Carlsen wins a 6th game in a row, and that is all she wrote. Artemyev and Dubov were close, but no cigar. And my friends, these are your standings. Magnus Carlsen wins his 17th world title with 16 out of 21. He lost 1 game in 34 games of chess over 5 days. He only lost to MVL, and then he won 6 in a row. That is what we call greatest of all time stuff. He loses a game, wins 6 games in a row, makes a couple of draws along the way. How about this for a sleeper story? Daniil Dubov would have tied Magnus for 1st place if he didn't make a gimmick draw against Jan Nepomniachtchi. Dubov lost half a point. That's crazy. He would have had 16 points. Vladislav Artemyev in 3rd with the bronze. MVL standalone 4th, 14.5. Very, very close. And on the women's side of things, Valentina Gunyina half a point, 14 to 13.5. And then it wasn't even close. It was a point after that, and they crushed the women's side. Folks, it's over. Magnus Carlsen, Rapid and Blitz champion, back-to-back years. Best in the world. He doesn't have to be the classical world champion. Best in the world. This was fun. I hope you enjoyed these recaps. Tomorrow we will continue with our regularly scheduled programming. Get out of here.